Well, hello, good morning, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Rob, and after 26 cruises across 5 different cruise lines, I would like to offer my humble review of my recent time aboard the Carnival Paradise. On this 5-day cruise, we headed to the ports of Nassau and Celebration Key, with my favorite, a few sea days sprinkled in. So let's jump right into this Carnival Fantasy class ship and see if it really is a slice of paradise. Now this sailing left out of the Port of Tampa, which is a super easy port to navigate with only a few terminals and ample parking. There are many different options, including parking on site, parking in the parking garage across the street, or many of the downtown Tampa off-site third-party parking lots. I sailed solo on this cruise, so I was dropped off at the terminal door, so it was a super easy process, although I do have 2 different videos on the channel giving an overview on driving to either Terminal 3 or Terminal 6 for the Port of Tampa. I'll link those in the description below. So once I was dropped off at the door, I pulled out my passport and my printed boarding pass. Now, I don't know if this was just on my sailing, but they were pulling people out of line that only had their boarding passes on their phone, and they were printing them out. Now, I am platinum with Carnival for now, so I was in the priority lane, but the normie lane was only a few more people deep. So once I got through security, I headed to get checked in and was promptly greeted, checked in, and shown to my seat. Now, they did have all the seating separated by sections: diamond, platinum, faster to the fun, accessible, etc., etc. So I believe there was some fog on the last sailing coming in, so that may have been the cause for some of the delay, but it wasn't much of a delay because almost immediately after sitting down, my number was called and it was time to get on board. So I would say overall, Port of Tampa is really easy to embark out of, and the efficiency was pretty quick. Now, one thing I do love about leaving out of the Port of Tampa is going under the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. So about an hour to an hour and a half after you leave Tampa, make sure you head out on deck and watch the ship navigate under the massive Sunshine Skyway Bridge. It is such a cool little thing. It's something that I remember from even way back when I first started cruising. Here's my family posing for a picture that I took almost 20 years ago on the same class of ship. So pretty cool little thing about embarking out of the Port of Tampa. But now that we're on the ship, let's check out the layout, design, and some of the amenities. Once I was on the ship, I reveled in the nostalgia and glory of this wonderful ship. This class is where my cruising journey began, so it holds a super special place in my heart. And as a platinum guest, for now, I was able to head to the room to drop things off a little early, but the rooms were still not even close to being done, so I held on to my backpack. So I went to my muster station just outside of the theater, as one who is responsible should do. This is something that holds up the fun at embarkation, so I always suggest getting it out of the way when you can. Now, this ship was built in 1998, and like I said, it is the smallest class of ships in Carnival's fleet, but the layout is great. It is a great first ship, I think, for many people. It's got only a few floors, and it's very easy to remember the layout. It is honestly one of my favorites. So basically, there are 3 main areas. The main atrium, with its dual sweeping staircase and classic glass elevators. The atrium bar, and as we go up the levels, the dining room, the kids club, some of the shopping, the library, the piano bar, and more. The second main area is the long promenade with the casino bar, the coffee bar, a bunch of lounges, the nightclub, the comedy club, etc. And that runs down the entire side of the ship. And then outside on the Lido with Guy's Burgers, Blue Iguana Cantina for the tacos or burritos, you got the pools, the water park area, a couple of bars, and of course inside there is the main buffet. Now, once you figured out all of these things, you pretty much got the whole ship down. It is a very simple ship with simple amenities, but honestly, after doing a few big ships that have tons of people, I honestly prefer these smaller ships with less people and less things to worry about on my vacation. Now, it's not all good, being that the ship has been sailing pretty much non-stop except for the shutdown. It is showing some age, even with its dry dock and refits. But still, the Paradise and the Elation, its sister ship out of Jacksonville, have to go under small bridges, and being that no one is making smaller ships anymore, these faithful fantasy-class ships keep trudging on. And like I said, this class holds a solid grasp on my heart, and I loved sailing on her. Now, I did just hear the announcement that the rooms are ready, but before we head there, I need to ask you to do me a favor and subscribe. YouTube analytics tells me that you all love watching this cruising content, but you're forgetting to do one thing: subscribe. So if you hear anything in this video or any of my videos that is helpful, I would ask that you please hit that subscribe button, as it really helps out my channel. Thanks in advance. Now let's check out my awesome interior room right on the Empress floor. As you saw, it was right around the corner from all the action in the main atrium, which I loved. Now, for a late 90s ship that's been refitted a few times, the room was pretty nice. One thing that I think is grossly underrated is the fact that the door to the room would swing open and then stay in the open position. It wasn't trying to slam closed with you in it like any of the newer ships. Now, as far as the layout goes, it's the tried and true interior layout that's been around Carnival and most other cruise ships since time in memoriam. I've always wanted to say that. Now, the biggest drawback, I think, with this and any older cruise ships is the shower curtain. The showers are a bit tight because I'm a pretty big guy, and it doesn't help when the shower curtain wants to just come in and hug me all shower long. Now, I do think there was ample storage for little old me and my stuff. It'd probably be tight with 2 people, and there are some interiors like this with upper Pullman beds that drop down. And with 3 or more people, I think I would feel pretty suffocated. So I think if you're going to do more than 2 people, you'd be better off in an ocean view that's maybe got the couch and a little more breathing room. But I did thoroughly enjoy this room as a solo cruiser, and for the price, it was great. But now that we've done all this exploring, I am hungry. So let's go grab some food. So being that this is the smallest ship class in all of Carnival fleet, there are limited options for specialty dining, but the complimentary dining was ample. Aside from the basic main buffet and the main dining room, they have the classic Guy's Burgers, Blue Iguana tacos and burritos, the Pizza Pirate, and the deli. Now, they also had an a la carte seafood corner in between Blue Iguana and Guy's Burgers that had weird hours, and I never really got around to trying it, sadly. Now, they also do have the Bonsai Sushi Express on the promenade, which is just a little stall where they make a few sushi items. Now, the only real specialty dining was the chef's table, which I did, and I highly recommend. I will have a separate video on the chef's table that's coming to the channel soon. So again, subscribe with the notification bell on so you'll get notified anytime I upload another cruising adventure. The food options were ample, and I didn't have a problem finding anything to eat. I am not a picky eater, and I do not have any food allergies, so pretty much I'm a seafood guy. If I see food, I eat it, and I did eat quite a lot of food on this cruise. Now, the only time I had any issues with my food was in the main dining room for breakfast. I really struggled to get a poached egg in my Eggs Benedict. Now, if you're no stranger to this channel, you know that I adore a good Eggs Benedict. And for a long time, Carnival was the #1 spot for an Eggs Benedict at sea. Now, that first place has been replaced and given to the Margaritaville at Sea Islander, which had the most amazing Eggs Benedict. And on my sailing on the Paradise, I did go through a couple of Eggs Benedict until I got a poached egg. Now, again, I'm not one to be picky, so I'm not the one that sent it back, but they did notice I was a little perturbed at my food and asked if everything was okay. And I said it was okay, but that this wasn't a poached egg. And they said, well, let's take care of that. And unfortunately, they brought a second one and a third one, and third time was a charm. So, you know, it is what it is. You live and you learn. Not everyone can be perfect. But again, in all 5 days that I was on this ship, I only had one issue, and that was that one time with the Eggs Benedict. And I just want to give a huge shout out to all the staff that was super helpful and super friendly. Did not have any issues with any of the staff. Just want to give a special shout out to Nee. She was my stateroom steward, and always a smiling face anytime I saw her in the hallway. Now let's move on to the entertainment on board, like the shows, live music, and things to do. And honestly, this ship has its fill. As for the live music, there were about 4 or 5 locations on board where you could find it. The atrium stage had a lot of music and performances. I did sail during Christmas, so they had some holiday specials here. Now, just outside the casino bar, there was a really nice stage where the band played a lot. And outside on the Lido, of course, there was a steel drummer. There was some music in the lounge as well. And the ship does have a piano bar, but I believe day one it showed that someone was playing there, but no one ever did play at the piano bar, which I know some people really love that, so that seemed to be a disappointment. Overall, the live music was varied, as we had full bands, a violin duo, classic steel drummer, and others. But as for the things to do on this ship, it was being smaller, so it's limited on variety of things happening at the same time, but they did have the usual suspects, like the arcade, ping pong, shuffleboard, mini golf, the pools, the slides, the comedy club, the library full of board games, the nightclub, shopping, candy store, of course, art auctions, towel folding demonstrations, dance classes, trivia, and of course, the Carnival Classic deck parties, whether that's Sail Away or the 80s Rock and Glow Party. All hosted by the amazing Playlist cast, which brings us to the shows. Now, I was a theater kid growing up, and now here I perform for you on YouTube. I say this on a lot of the smaller Carnival ships, but having a backing track over top of your performers, I think does them a disservice. You have the capacity to have live music on stage, and you do it for most of your bigger ships. I think you should do it for your smaller ships as well. But being blessed to cruise in as often as I do, these Carnival shows are the same shows that they have been performing for the last few years, and they're good, but I think I'm ready for something new. Now, on this specific sailing, they had the classic rock show and an 80s throwback, and they also did a Christmas holiday show as well. The cast put their hearts on the stage, and I really did love their performances. This review isn't always about the ship, it's also about where we went. So let's dive into the ports of call on this specific sailing. Our first port of call was Nassau. Now, the main port area that they have built has turned into a lovely area to walk around and do a little souvenir shopping. Now, once you leave port, you may be approached by someone selling you something or trying to get you on a tour, but honestly, it seems to have calmed down a little bit in the last few years versus what it used to be. Now, I did a shopping tour with the Carnival Insider Shopping Guide this time around and really had a nice time. I didn't buy anything, but each of these stores has a little free trinket for your time, which is pretty fun. Now, there is the world-famous straw market for more souvenirs, and if you're in the mood to party, Señor Frogs is always a fun but safe bet. There are a few public beaches like Junkanoo, but you will be approached about renting chairs often. Now, I choose to go to Luca Kyrie most of the time for their shrimp ceviche, views of the ship, and all the sea turtles that are always swimming around. Nassau used to be a port that I kind of dreaded, but since all the new updates and everything, that's no longer the case, and I think it's a great stop on a casual itinerary. Our next stop was Carnival's new private island destination on Grand Bahama, Celebration Key. This place is a great size for the current passenger capacity of 2 ships. Now, they are aiming for up to 4 ships, and personally, I think that would be a little too much for my liking. For the most part, right now, you can get around without crowds, and the food lines are pretty minimal. If you add another 7,000 plus people, I fear it might no longer be fun. Now, their concept of one free meal on the island per person at certain food stalls is interesting and is pretty par for the Carnival costing course. The lagoon is really nice, but it's not heated, so it was fine when I was there in September. It was pretty cold when I was there in December. Now, I do appreciate the 2 sides to the area. The Starfish Lagoon side, more for the families, and the Calypso side, more for the adults. I think it's a good balance. And of course, they have shopping back in the Lacono Cove area. Now, the slides here in the main castle are pay to play for a daily fee, as is pretty much everything else but the lounge chairs, which are ample. Now, they do have these super basic cabanas, in my opinion, is the most overpriced joke on all of Celebration Key. I mean, we're talking $500 to $2,000 plus for a shaded couch and a cooler for a few hours a time. Now, when we were there in September, the last few hours we got rained out and had to head back to the ship, which if we had rented a cabana we would have lost all that time. So I think the cabanas are a bit much. Also, the Pearl Cove Beach adults only pay-to-play area is a little on the pricey side as well. The Junk Canoe Parade, which starts back in Lacono Cove, comes through the sandcastle, and then circles around the fountain just in the entryway portal, is pretty awesome. And if you could swing it, the big band is really epic and loud. But overall, I think Celebration Key is a nice beach day getaway destination, and I'm glad that it's part of Carnival's itinerary. As we sail away from Celebration Key and into the sunset for our final evening on board, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me on this Paradise review. I absolutely love the fantasy class ships, and I think you will too. That's all I got for you today. My name is Rob with Here Today, Where Tomorrow, and we will see you there. If you like this video and want to see more, please head on over to the channel and subscribe. And if you want to get notified, ring that little bell. We upload new videos every week.